What's going on, YouTube? It's Donnie P all day. Donnie P all day. So, listen, this video is going to be a little bit different. This is going to be a video on 3 must-have knives. And before it confuses anyone, this isn't 3 must-have knives as in you must have the Buck 110. You must have the this. You must... No. It's 3 must-have knives as in style, not exactly this particular knife. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out a knife and I'm going to say, you know, this is a knife you must have. And then somebody's going to go, oh, I mean, that's good, but I like the Chester Fudge, you know, 6308, blah, blah, blah. It's better. Okay, listen, we're not talking about particular knives. We're talking about knife styles. So immediately, because there's going to be a lot of people out there that just aren't really smart, immediately get it out of your head that I'm not recommending, even though I can recommend every single thing on the table here. I'm not telling you that, you know, this is better than your Eureka Mama Splatter, okay? I'm not telling you that. I'm not telling you that this is the choice better than the one you just spent $6,000 on because you spent $6,000 on it because you're a moron. What I'm telling you is that a style of knife, all right? So open that right into your head. So now when we're talking about styles, we have tons of different styles between, you have daggers and throwers and hunters and blahs and blahs and blahs, right? So, but we're going to break down basic. So, machetes, style of knife. This is a mid-range machete. It's my TRS. It's called something. Oh, Buccaneer. The TRS Buccaneer. Is it my best machete ever? No. But is it a really good machete? Yeah. So I can already tell you that when I say the 3 best, this isn't my best model, even that I have here at the house. This isn't the best model that I have. It's one of them, but it's not the best. So understand what I'm talking about. We have style. So machete, a very, very capable knife to own. Some kind of big, large banging knife, a Bowie knife, right? Something like that. So we're talking about machetes, we're talking about Bowies, we're talking about survival knives, right? Knives like your SE6 and your Ontario 7s and your Joker. There's a jillion of them. There's a jillion of them. So I'm just bringing out one model because it was the closest one to me. All right. So that's why I had 4 knives sitting in my kitchen, and those 4 were the ones I started with, and then I had some knives really close, so I grabbed those. So that's why the models are look at that shadow. It makes it look like a booger. Such a child. But that's why what's out here is what's out here. You have the case stacked leather hunter, right? So you have your machetes, you have your Bowies, you have your survival knives, you have your hunting knives, which is different than a survival knife, and then you have fixed blade EDCs. So they're going to be a little bit smaller, fixed blade EDC. And then you have a regular EDC. This is the Scorpion by Off Grid. And then you have your classic lockback EDCs, right? This one is the Case Hammerhead. So, and then the other 2 styles that I have out here are your multi-tool knives. This is the Victorinox Champ something, Swiss Champ, the Victorinox Swiss Champ, and I have your classic multi-blade folder, right? A canoe style or conger style, whatever kind of style you want to use as a classic folder, then one of those, a classic folding knife. And this one is this a, oh, this is the case. That's right. This is a case, and this thing is gorgeous. So 3 knives that you have to have, like 3 must-have knives. That way you can go through any situation. You can that's gonna be funny the whole time. I might have to turn. It's 3 that you can use to survive on. What do we use this for? The machete blade. The machete blade is mainly used for clearing brush. right? That's all it is. Just clear stuff up. I got a limb in the way, I'm going to swat it out. Just got one of those 1-inch forest trees, I'm going to take it down. That's what your machete is good for. Is this the only blade you can do that with, and can this blade be used for other things? So now we're talking about what are the things you might need a knife for. All right, so let's talk about clear and brush. Let's talk about whittling and carving. Let's talk about wood processing. Let's talk about self-defense. Let's talk about that's pretty much a lot of the stuff. But then you talk about a survival, like, oh, I gotta cut the seatbelt to get out of a car, smash the back of the window, do whatever it takes. You have all these purposes to have a knife. I gotta open boxes at work. There's tons and tons of purposes. And then it comes out, I gotta skin an animal so I can process some meat. I've got to lash it to something so I can use it as a spear to hunt. I need to be able to make a spear to hunt. You have all those. And so you have to think of 3 knives to have that you can complete all those tasks with. All those tasks. And I think about what this is good for and what it's not good for. And would it be good for clearing brush? Absolutely. Would it be good for self-defense? Absolutely, why not? But I can do all of that with a Bowie. I can clear brush, I can do that. It's going to be in a tighter package, but it's also going to be hard hitting. This one in particular is, I mean, it's never going to break. That's for damn sure. This thing is a house. But my fighting knife, and here's a little something. I see people have done a couple of reviews on these where they don't understand the choil. This choil and the way this is, you see how this angle is? If you're looking into a preacher, the choil is backwards. So everybody says, oh, I wish the choil was a little bigger. It's not made for this. This is a fighting Bowie. That's what it is. Can you use it for other stuff? Absolutely. But it was designed to be a nasty fighting knife. And this choil is backwards because it's made for a pinky. And the reason that angle is there, you see how the finger is locked on? That's exactly how this was designed, what it was designed for. So if you're looking at a preacher and you're wondering what it's for, that's what it's for. This is what this knife is designed to be right here. That's what its design is. Okay? So now you understand. But so here it is. You got your big Bowie. I know because I've done it 1,000 times. That's the original edge. Right? Nothing wrong with it. I can use this as an absolute banger. I've chopped wood. I've chopped down little trees. I've cut up a lot of stuff with this. Not as much as Scab has done with his. Scab over at Choir Boys Cutlery Outdoors. He has decimated just about everything with his preacher. But that's what a Bowie is for. So can I clear out some brush? Absolutely. Can I knock away some little trees? Absolutely. Can I use it for self-defense? Absolutely. But then I can also use it for wood processing, things like that. So when you have your survival knife and you need it for wood processing, or your whatever your knife you're going to use is smaller, well, what if you have a bigger piece of wood? You might need a bigger piece of meat. And that's what this big guy is going to go for. And then it breaks down to let's say your hunting knife. This thing, I know that I can process game all day long with this. Boop, 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 boop. Oh, I don't have a fillet knife. That's okay because I can process fish with this knife. So that already took away another, this thing is gorgeous. That already took away another piece, right? A piece of the puzzle. Now, with something like this, you see how thin it is, right? And it's flexible. Case did an amazing job on these. It's flexible, so when you are processing and you need to get under a pelt, you need to be able to bend and slice. You need that blade to not be so rigid and stiff when you're doing something like that, when you're really, really getting into some fine work. But I can also use a survival knife to process, right? This isn't going to be my wood processing. It's going to be for game, right? So while this knife is perfect for game, it's not perfect for wood. You can, you know what I mean? You want something a little thicker, a little meatier. So this would not be my big wood processing knife. So this would be more limited to a specific use. And that's where this guy comes in. This, I can process wood all day long. I can cut rope. I can do whatever it needs to. And again, you see that edge. That's factory right there, man. That's out the box. But this is one of the knives that, like my War Machine, I use constantly. I love this knife. But it's something that, can I process meat? Absolutely. Can I use this tip to rip through flesh and skin something? Absolutely. Can I take the meat off a fish from its scales? Absolutely. So having something like this, it can do what this can do. Not as clean as this, but it can do what it can do, but this one can't do what that can do, right? And that is the main difference between those. So then it comes down to a fixed blade EDC, right? This one right here, this is the Hydra Defcon by Proelia. This is, in my opinion, one of the most perfect knives you can ever have. I mean, it's crowbar thick, it's perfectly sized, it's crazy sharp, it's really strong, it's very comfortable. Everything about this is great. Now with a fixed blade EDC, one thing you definitely need is some way to hold it, some kind of belt, or you need to be able to lash it, right? Now, how does that different from a standard EDC? Standard EDC generally comes with a pocket clip. And if you want, you can throw it inside some kind of little leather pouch to keep it around, but you don't need to. Something like this is easier to transport, easier to hide, easier to put somewhere. This one is the Off-Grid Scorpion, and it is phenomenal, right? So going from a fixed blade EDC to a folding EDC, less moving parts, which means it's going to be stronger no matter what. But this is more convenient. It's definitely more convenient. And if I have a fixed blade EDC and I also have a survival knife, then this would be a better bring along than a fixed blade EDC if I have a survival knife already. So now when you're talking about your folding EDCs, though, that brings you into your spine lock type knives. Now with these, most of them, you aren't going to have the ability to pocket clip it for easy retrieval. It's going to be sitting in a pocket, just dangling somewhere. Hello, Mr. B. Or you're going to have to leather pouch it and put it on your belt, right? Also, where that one is a really, really simple to use one-hand action, while these can be used one-handed, you can definitely open them one-handed. You can close them one-handed, but closing them one-handed, you have to be careful not to swing by and cut your fingers. So while this is every bit as good as this one's just more convenient, right? And it goes on to the same thing with one of these guys. Now, one of these guys, the good thing is you have multiple blade options for different things. And the good thing is if one dulls, you have another one to use, right? And that's great. The problem again is it can get lost in the pocket. It's just less convenient. It's not a one-hand open in any way. Can you close it one hand? Yeah, absolutely. But opening it is going to be a little bit more difficult. So it just makes it less convenient of a knife than, say, something like that Scorpion. Then you have your multi-tool. So you have your screwdrivers and your scissors and even a magnifying glass, which is great for fire making. And you have all this stuff. But like the others, it can get lost in the pocket. It's very bulky. And it's just inconvenient when it comes to opening. You really have to use those little thumb ticks right there to get your fingers in. And people that have problems with that, or they have soft nails, that just doesn't make any sense for them. So this would be, I think this personally is one of the greatest knives ever made, ever, point blank. But if it came down to, I have to choose what style I'm going to stay with this right here. So all of these others can be replaced with one knife. One knife. Now, would I trust more for longevity's sake this guy over this guy? Yeah, it's a big fat fixed blade. It works great. It's going to sit in the pocket. The cutting edge is about a half inch difference. So does it really matter? No. So this one would be the one I would take. But since I'm talking about convenience and 3 knives, if this was a 1 knife challenge, then this would be it. But because I can have the option to carry a medium fixed blade, then this length of edge and this length of edge X out each other when this one can be replaced, right? So 1 knife would be a standard EDC of some kind of one hand operational, in case you get stuck and you're hurt and something bad has happened and you only have the ability to use one hand. You want to be able to open and close very easily. The fixed blade, obviously, it just comes out of a sheath and goes right back in very, very easily. But it has other options. So if I'm going to say the first knife you need, a must-have knife, whoa, the first knife, as in 3 must-owns, you must have an easy operational, easy attachment, easy carry pocket knife. 100%. 100%. This is knife number 1. So then it comes down to, all right, well, we have this guy, we have this guy, and we have this guy. This one knife can do everything these 2 knives can do, but these 2 knives can't do everything this knife can do. Well, tra-la-la, boom-de-ay. That's a pretty easy thing to go through. So now I know that my second knife has to be a survival knife. I can strongly recommend the SE6. That SE, I'll tell you guys, when you're talking about heat treats, there's a lot of companies out there with phenomenal heat treats, right? Phenomenal heat treats, like Work Tough Gear, phenomenal heat treat. Tops differentially heat treated knives. This is a differential heat treated knife. Tops is the best differential heat treated knives, right? This is differential, that's differential. Tops is a much better heat treat than this. Does that mean this is garbage? Well, look at that. It gets used a lot. You can see the use in this blade. This thing's still good, man. This thing's still, I use it for what it's made to be used for. I cut rope and wood and all that with it. So I'm not doing anything stupid to break it on purpose or to chance breaking it. No, I'm using it as the knife is designed. And this thing is phenomenal. But your survival knife, your BK7s, your Ontario 7s, your SE6s, and the list goes on. There's a jillion of them. Steel wheel roamers. Survival knives are key. So my second choice would absolutely be a survival knife. A survival knife. Doesn't have to be that survival knife. That is the D-Bad Campmaster. That's of my own design. Great freaking knife. Love it. So now it comes down to, I have these machetes and I have buoys, right? Now there's a million different kinds of machetes. There's a million different kinds of buoys. This is just the kind. While this thing can do pretty much everything that this one can do, this one can't do everything that this one can do. So it makes it very, very simple as my final choice to be my main knife, especially for self-defense. I have all out of all 3. I know that 100% without a shadow of a doubt, all my daily tasks I can do with these 2 knives. A survival knife, a pocket knife, right? Doesn't matter which one. A survival knife, a pocket knife. As long as they're good ones, it'll work. I know that I can do everything with. But when it comes down to getting attacked by a bear, I might just want this thing on me. I might just want to up my chances. Is it going to guarantee my survival against some angry bear? No. But is it going to guarantee me that at least I'm going to have a fighting chance? Absolutely. And then if I need to chop down a little tree, guess what? This thing's going to work. I could do a lot less chops to get down a tree than it'll take me to get this one, right? This thing will do it. So if you have to have 3 knives for your whole life to work with, you need a large buoy. Large buoy. Could be bigger. Could be about this size. This is about as small as I would go as far as length. If it comes down to my one and only buoy, this is the smallest I would probably go. So you can go bigger. But this one right here, a large buoy, something that you can wield in defense with. And this one, since this one is designed specifically, this wasn't designed for chopping wood. It wasn't designed for survival needs. It was designed specifically and 100% as a fighting knife. That's what the D-Bad Preacher is. But go over to Choir Boys Cutlery and watch Scab's videos on his Preacher. He's done things with his Preacher that nobody else has ever done. And it's not what it's made to do, but he does it because it works. I've done it plenty of times with this knife where you've seen me go out and you've seen me take this thing and give it some shots, and it's getting some stains and it's getting some scratches. Even though that's not what it's made to do, it just does it anyway. It just does it anyway, right? But a big buoy is a absolute must in a top 3 knife situation. A survival knife. Don't care what survival knife it is. A survival knife is an absolute must-have in a top 3 knives living situation where you. This is really beautiful, man. It's a must-have is a good survival knife, and lastly, and of course, a great pocket knife. You have to something. This is the one thing you can chintz out on a big buoy, and you can chintz out on a survival knife. The bigger the knife, the more you can kind of go soft on. Like, you can get yourself some kind of timber rattler buoy, and it's going to work good. You're going to have to sharpen it a little bit more than other knives, but it's still going to work. So you can go with like more of a budget style. I can take out my Cisco high carbon buoy. It's a $15-$20 buoy. I can take that and do every single thing that this knife can do. And I mean everything that this can do, I can do with that Cisco. And that, even though this one's only $100, I mean, that's pretty cheap. But I know 100% that Cisco will do it all. So it doesn't really matter. It doesn't have to be an expensive knife, right? I know that I can take my Schrade Frontier, whatever it is, which is a very inexpensive, relatively, camp knife compared to, let's say, the SE6 that I recommend. SE6 is double the price. But I know with the Schrade, I can do every single thing that SE can do. The SE just happens to have the best heat treat and the best heat treat in the business, no matter what, hands down. The best heat treat is SE, and the best warranty is SE. They are just phenomenal. But I know that a Schrade, I know that this can do and this is sub $100, everything the SE can do, right, with a knife that's less expensive. So you can actually go closer to budget range on those blades. The only knife that I'm going to recommend that you don't go budget on is something like this. You want a very, very strong pivot. You want a very, very strong stop pin. You want good steel. You want good scales. You don't want these screws coming out and having your thing separate and you be screwed. So definitely do yourself a favor. Buy whatever you want for a buoy. Buy whatever you want for a survival knife or a machete or anything like that. But when it comes to a pocket knife, a must-own pocket knife, get something of good quality. That doesn't mean high price. The SE Avispa is insanely good quality, and it's only $35-$40, right? So there are knives out there, these Kubis that I get all the time that are sub $50, that are amazing knives that work. But then there's some, you can go to the gas station, you can get yourself something that's going to work for like a regular daily carry to do small stuff, but constant use and constant hard use, you definitely want something better. So don't be afraid to spend a little bit more on this than you would on this. You understand? So that's where I would absolutely say, if you're going to buy 3 different knives, put the most of your money into something like this. And it doesn't even have to be most of your money as in it costs more, because you can get a really high quality, and that's what you want. You want to get a high quality, doesn't have to be high price, pocket knife. And when you compare it to something like this that sells for $99, and then this one was over $200. So maybe it's a bad example because you don't have to go spend $200. But If you're going to spend $200, this thing is 100% worth it. This will be your ride or die blade right here. This thing is awesome. Definitely go more into materials when you're talking about one of these than you are one of those. Materials are more important in this than they are that. A 440 Frost cutlery knife from 1986 is still going to work, right? It's still going to work today. I have one. I have a Frost cutlery Undertaker from the 1980s that is still going strong, and it's 440. Not 440C, not 440A, not 440HC. It's 440, right? Just stainless steel, and it still kicks ass. 100%. So remember that. This, though, if I had a 1986 Frost cutlery green plastic handle knife, no way. No, it's not going to last. This thing right here, this wing will. So that's it for this one, man. 3 knives. If you have to have 3 knives, make sure you're not limiting yourself in your head to brand, but style. You need 3 kinds of knives. You need pocket knife, survival knife, Bowie. That's it. You have those 3, you're good forever. I swear to you. All right, so that's it for this one. Hi, I'm Donnie B all day. Until next video.